I was the punchline to a bad joke. The worthless, live-in son-in-law everyone loved to hate. My big debut on page 1? A set of divorce papers slapped on a mahogany desk between us. Sign them, and get out of my family's house. My wife, in name only, of course, was a CEO carved from ice, and her voice was just as cold. I glanced down at the papers and smiled. Sure, I said, but you have to agree to one condition. Ethan, you have the nerve to smile? Sophia Hayes' voice had the bite of a Chicago wind in January. It could strip paint. I looked up at the woman across from me, a bona fide knockout. A tailored business suit clung to curves that could stop traffic, but her face was locked in a permanent glacial frost. This was Sophia Hayes, heiress to the Hayes fortune, the notoriously frigid CEO of Hayes Industries, and the woman who technically shared my last name. Why wouldn't I smile? I picked up the divorce agreement, flipping through the pages casually. For 3 years, I've eaten your food, lived in your house, and now I get to walk away with $1 million severance package. Most guys would kill for a golden parachute like this. Sophia's perfectly sculpted eyebrows drew tighter. She'd probably expected tears, begging, maybe even me getting on my knees. The one thing she hadn't prepared for was me acting like I'd just won the lottery. She was speechless. Let's cut the crap. I slapped the papers back down on the desk, leaned forward, and locked my eyes on hers. I'll sign, but $1 million isn't going to cut it. How much more could you possibly want? Her gaze dripped with contempt. Ethan, don't push your luck. Have you contributed a single thing to this family in 3 years? Just because I haven't doesn't mean I can't, I said, a corner of my mouth twitching up. How about this? Give me $10 million, and I'll not only sign these papers, but I'll also solve that massive headache you've got. $10 million? Are you insane? Sophia laughed, a short, sharp bark devoid of any humor. What problem could possibly be worth $10 million to me? The Vance Capital deal, I said, each word landing like a stone. The laughter died in her throat. Her face went pale. The Vance Capital deal was the albatross around her neck. It was the biggest project of the year for her company, but the man in charge, Arthur Vance, was a stubborn old mule. No matter what she offered, how sweet the terms, he wouldn't budge. The whole thing was about to go up in flames. How did you know about that? She blurted out, then immediately bit her lip, realizing her mistake. I laughed inwardly. How did I know? Because I wasn't just the Ethan she knew. I was from 10 years in the future. I knew more than just some piddling business deal. I had the entire economic blueprint of Westlake City for the next decade imprinted on my brain. Don't worry about how I know. I leaned back in the chair, crossing one leg over the other. The only question is, are you willing to bet $10 million that I can deliver? Sophia stared at me, her eyes drilling into mine, searching, questioning. Was this really the same man who used to do the laundry and cook the meals? The man who couldn't even meet her gaze? This new confidence, this unnerving, all-knowing look in his eyes. It was completely alien to her. Fine, she finally hissed through clenched teeth. I'll give you a chance. You have 3 days. If you can't close the deal, you won't see a single penny, and you will disappear from my life forever. You've got a deal. I stood up, grabbed the pen from her desk, and signed my name with a flourish. Then I pushed the signed agreement across the desk to her. I've held up my end. Now it's time for a show of good faith. Sophia froze. What are you talking about? I'm talking about seed money. I held up 2 fingers. Nothing crazy. 200,000. I can't exactly walk into a meeting with Arthur Vance empty-handed, can I? Sophia's chest heaved. I could see the raw fury battling with her business sense. She wanted to rip up the papers, to scream at me, to throw me out herself. But then she looked into my eyes that seemed to see right through her, and did something that shocked us both. She pulled out her phone. Give me your account number. Sophia, you actually gave him the money? Are you out of your mind? An arrogant voice boomed from the doorway before a young guy in a loud floral shirt stormed in. Leo Hayes, Sophia's cousin, a VP at the company, and one of the people who despised me most. He snatched my phone out of my hand, his eyes bugging out when he saw the bank transfer notification. 200 grand. You just gave this loser 200 grand. Leo jabbed a finger in my face, practically spitting with rage. Does he even know what a business negotiation is? He's going to meet with Vance and make the entire Hayes family a laughingstock. I just cleaned out my ear, not bothering to look at him. Sophia's face was a stony mask. This is my decision, Leo. It doesn't concern you. Does it concern me? The whole company's reputation is on the line. Leo looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. Sis, you can't let this freeloader scam you. He's just going to take the money and run. Oh, I finally spoke, a lazy smile on my face as I looked at him. How about we make a little wager? Leo blinked. What kind of wager? Let's bet on whether or not I can land a Vance contract, I said. If I do, from now on, whenever you see me, you will respectfully address me as sir. If I fail, not only will I walk away with nothing, but I'll crawl out of this building on my hands and knees in front of the entire company. Done. You said it. Leo's face lit up, a greedy glint in his eyes, as if he could already picture me groveling. Everyone here is a witness. Sophia, you heard him. Sophia didn't say a word, but the look she gave me was more complicated than ever. I ignored them both and headed for the door. I can't wait to watch you crawl, you loser. Leo yelled after me. I didn't look back, just gave a little wave over my shoulder. Stepping out of the Hayes Industries tower, I took a deep breath of the air from 10 years in the past. Arthur Vance. The man's file instantly materialized in my head. A notoriously stubborn old goat, but he had one fatal weakness. He was a fanatical collector of antique pottery, and I happened to know that in 3 days at the West End Antique Fair, a set of fragments from a long-lost Song Dynasty Jinjan tea bowl was going to be unearthed. Those fragments were the holy grail Arthur Vance had been hunting for years. 3 days later, at the West End Antique Fair, I was in jeans and a t-shirt, squatting in front of a dusty, overlooked stall, turning a grimy-looking ceramic bowl over in my hands. Not far off, Leo and a couple of his yes-men were watching me, faces smeared with ridicule. I thought the loser had some brilliant plan. Turns out he's here digging through junk, Leo cackled. Is he seriously going to try and fool Vance with some fake antique? This is priceless. The guy's lost his mind, Leo. For sure. I can't wait to see him get thrown out on his ass. I ignored their chatter, my focus entirely on the bowl. According to my memory, this was the stall. This was the bowl. The owner, a shifty-eyed middle-aged man, saw my interest and scurried over. Good eye, my friend. That's a family heirloom, passed down for generations. Genuine Song Dynasty. I hid a smirk. Doesn't look like Song Dynasty to me, boss, I said, feigning disinterest. Looks more like. I trailed off deliberately. Like what? The owner pressed. Like the bowl we used to use for our cat. Pfft. Leo and his crew burst out laughing. Is this guy a stand-up comedian? The stall owner's face turned the color of a plum. You're full of it. If you're not buying, then get lost. Hey, no need to get bent out of shape. I slowly stood up and pulled a wad of cash from my pocket. Exactly $20,000. I'll take the bowl, but on one condition. I pointed to a pile of broken porcelain shards wrapped in newspaper in the corner of his stall. You throw in that pile of trash for free. The owner's eyes lit up at the sight of the cash. He couldn't care less about some broken junk. Done. It's all yours. All of it. He snatched the money and shoved the bowl and the newspaper-wrapped bundle into my hands. I took the items and turned to leave, but Leo and his friends blocked my path. You spent 20 grand on that pile of garbage. He gestured to what I was holding, his face a mask of disbelief. This is your secret weapon for landing the Vance deal. What do you think? I shot back. Ha ha ha. Leo laughed so hard he started tearing up. Fine. I'm coming with you to Vance Capital. I want a front row seat when Arthur Vance has security break your legs and throw you into the street. Be my guest. I smiled, hailed a cab, and headed for Vance Capital. Leo and his crew hopped in their car and tailed me the whole way, practically salivating at the thought of the train wreck they were about to witness. Vance Capital, the CEO's office. Arthur Vance, a sharp man in his 60s, was scowling at me from behind a massive desk. You're the representative from Hayes Industries? Where's Sophia Hayes? His tone was clipped, clearly annoyed by the constant delays. Ms. Hayes had a last-minute emergency. She sent me to personally offer her apologies, Mr. Vance, I said respectfully. Apologies? Vance snorted. My time is valuable, son. I don't have time to play games with you kids. Outside the glass door of the office, I could see Leo's face pressed against it, positively glowing with schadenfreude. See? I told you he was toast. I ignored Vance's anger and placed the dirty ceramic bowl on his desk. A small gift for you, sir. A token of our sincerity. Vance glanced at it, his expression turning even more disdainful. A broken bowl? Get out of here. I don't accept garbage. Perhaps you should take a closer look, sir, I said with a calm smile. Vance impatiently picked up the bowl, about to toss it in the trash, when his hand suddenly froze. His eyes were glued to a tiny, almost invisible maker's mark on the bottom of the bowl. His breathing grew shallow. This is... You have good eye, mister. Vance, I said at the perfect moment. While this bowl is a replica, it's a replica of the lost Yohan Timika Jinjan bowl from the Song dynasty. More importantly, the artisan who made this was a direct descendant of the original craftsman. That's why he was able to replicate the family's secret mark on the base. Vance's hands started to tremble. He held the bowl with the reverence one would reserve for a holy relic. Young man, how could you possibly know all this? I've done my research. I smiled faintly, then placed the newspaper-wrapped package on the desk and slowly unfolded it. When the shards of porcelain, shimmering with an ethereal blue light, were revealed, Arthur Vance's eyes went wide as saucers. It's real. These are the fragments of the lost Tenmika bowl. He practically lunged across the desk, fumbling for his reading glasses. He picked up the pieces one by one, muttering to himself, his whole body shaking with excitement. Yes, that's the glaze. The exact pattern. I've been searching for this for 30 years. 30 years. Tears welled up in the old man's eyes. Outside, Leo's jaw had hit the floor. No, it can't be. That pile of junk. How could it be real? I watched the emotional tycoon for a moment before speaking. Mr. Vance, I heard you've been looking for this set. A treasure like this belongs with someone who truly appreciates it. I would be honored if you would accept it as a gift. Vance's head snapped up, his eyes filled with disbelief and profound gratitude. Young man, are you serious? Completely, I said, but I do have one small request. Name it. I'll give you anything you want. Vance declared, slapping his chest. I smiled. My request is simple. I was hoping Vance Capital and Hayes Industries could become long-term strategic partners. Partnership? Absolutely. Arthur Vance grabbed my hand, his face alight with a youthful energy I hadn't seen before. Son, you haven't just fulfilled a lifelong dream for me. You're a true kindred spirit. Forget partnership. From now on, anything Hayes Industries needs, you have my personal guarantee. He immediately picked up the phone and summoned his legal team. Draft a top-tier strategic partnership agreement with Hayes Industries right now. Give them the most favorable terms on everything. Outside the office, Leo and his cronies were frozen solid, like statues in a museum of stupidity. Their mouths hung open, their expressions a perfect blend of horror and utter confusion. He did it. Just like that. Leo, am I dreaming? Leo pinched himself hard and yelped. This was no dream. The loser, the freeloader, had actually done it. With a pile of broken pottery, he had closed a deal that even Sophia Hayes couldn't. After signing the preliminary documents, I shook hands with Vance. Come by for tea sometime, son. We have to discuss these bowls. I'd like that, sir. I walked out of the office. Leo flinched back 3 steps as if he'd seen a ghost. I walked right up to him and clapped him on the shoulder with a grin. I bet. Leo's face cycled through shades of green and white. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. What's the matter? I raised an eyebrow, thinking of backing out. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Come on, Leo. A man's got to keep his word. Yeah, Leo, you can't go back on it now. His 2 buddies, seeing which way the wind was blowing, immediately switched sides and started encouraging him. Leo looked like he'd just swallowed a bug. He clenched his jaw, squeezed his eyes shut, and forced out a single pathetic word. Sir. It was barely a whisper, a little louder. Did you forget to eat breakfast? I cupped a hand to my ear. Leo's fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white, but when he met my amused gaze, his resolve crumbled. He took a deep breath and practically shouted it. Sir. There we go. Much better. I nodded, satisfied, and strolled past him. Back at Hayes Industries, I walked straight into the CEO's office. Sophia was on the phone, pacing anxiously. She scowled when she saw me. Ethan, you have a nerve to come back? I can't get a hold of Mr. Vance. Did you completely? Her words were cut off as the office door burst open. A balding, middle-aged VP rushed in, his face beet red, waving a document in his hand. Ms. Hayes, incredible news. We just heard from Vance Capital. Not only did they agree to the partnership, they want to sign a top-tier strategic alliance agreement with us. What? Sophia shot to her feet, her face a mask of disbelief. The VP was so excited he could barely speak. And they specifically requested that the person in charge of this partnership must be. He paused, his eyes landing on me. It must be Mr. Ethan Cole. The office fell into a dead silence. Sophia's gaze shot toward me like a pair of daggers. It was a cocktail of shock, suspicion, confusion, and something else she couldn't quite name. The VP was stunned, too. He looked from me to Sophia, completely lost. Ms. Hayes, this is Mr. Cole. In his mind, the CEO's live-in husband was a worthless freeloader. How had he suddenly become the chosen one for Vance Capital? I pulled up a chair, sat down, and crossed my legs. That's me. I looked at Sophia and smiled. Ms. Hayes, as per our agreement, the deal is done. So about that $10 million, when can I expect the transfer? Sophia's lips parted, but no sound came out. This outcome was so far beyond anything she could have imagined. She had prepared for failure, for humiliation, for disaster. She had not prepared for this. Ethan, the man she had looked down on for 3 years, had actually pulled off the impossible, and he'd done it in a way that made absolutely no sense. How did you do it? Her voice was raw, strained. A magician never reveals his secrets. I waved a dismissive hand. Now, Ms. Hayes, shouldn't we be talking about my payment? You'll get your money. Sophia took a deep breath, forcing herself to regain composure. But you have to tell me what happened between you and Mr. Vance. She didn't believe for a second that I had the skills. There had to be some side deal, some concession I'd made that she didn't know about. Maybe I'd sold out the company's interests to get the contract signed. Is this an interrogation, Ms. Hayes? The smile vanished from my face. Need I remind you? You were the one begging me for help. Now that I've delivered, you're questioning my methods. Read the contract yourself. You're a sharp businesswoman. You'll know in 5 minutes whether Hayes Industries got the deal of a lifetime or got taken for a ride. I stood and walked toward her, looking down at her from my full height. Sophia, drop the condescending act. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's not real. It was the first time I had ever called her by her first name. Sophia was taken aback by my sudden dominance, instinctively taking a half step back. She stared at the man in front of her, so familiar, yet such a complete stranger, and felt her world tilting on its axis. Fine, 10 million. It'll be in your account tomorrow, she said through gritted teeth. But you're staying at the company. You will continue to manage the Vance partnership. She had to know. She had to keep me here and figure out what other secrets I was hiding. Worked for me? I agreed easily. But I have a condition. Another one? I want my own office, and I want a specific person assigned to me. Who? Your executive assistant, Maya Lin. Absolutely not. The refusal from Sophia was instant and automatic. Maya was her right hand, her most trusted aide for the past 5 years. She handled everything, knew everything. Giving Maya to me would be like letting me blindfold her. And why not? I countered. This is a huge project. I need someone competent to handle the details, run errands. Ms. Lin seems perfect for the job. There are dozens of assistants in this company. Take your pick. I want her. My tone was final. Ms. Hayes, you're the one who asked me to stay. If you can't even meet this one small request, then I don't see how our professional relationship can continue. I was calling her bluff. I knew she was consumed by curiosity and suspicion, desperate to keep me under her thumb where she could watch me. And keeping me here was the only way to do that. Just as I predicted, her expression wavered. The air in the room grew thick. The balding VP stood frozen, trying not to breathe, his entire worldview shattering before his eyes. The legendary freeloader was blackmailing the Ice Queen CEO, and the craziest part was she was actually considering it. Fine. The word was squeezed from between her teeth. You can have her. She stared at me, her gaze so intense it felt like it could burn a hole through my skull. But, Ethan, I'm warning you. Don't try to pull anything. You can't afford the consequences. Don't worry, I said, a slow, triumphant smile spreading across my face. I'm a very well-behaved man. The official memo went out an hour later. Ethan Cole, appointed project lead for the Vance Strategic Partnership, reporting directly to the CEO. Maya Lin, executive assistant to the CEO, reassigned as his dedicated assistant. The news hit Hayes Industries like a bomb. Did you hear? That useless husband of hers somehow conned the boss into making him a project lead. That's not even the half of it. He poached Maya Lin to be his assistant. Can you believe the nerve? He's obviously got ideas about her, trying to get close to our office goddess. Just wait. He won't last a week. The gossip mills were running hot. Meanwhile, the woman at the center of it all, Maya Lin, stood at the door of my new office, her pretty face set in a mask of professional frost. She wore a stylish secretary's uniform, a black pencil skirt showing off two long, perfect legs, and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses that made her look both chic and serious. The look in her eyes, however, could freeze hell over. "Mr. Cole, how may I assist you?" she asked, her voice as starched and formal as her blouse. I leaned back in my new leather executive chair, spinning a slow circle. "Relax, Maya. We're colleagues now. We should get to know each other." "I'd rather not," she replied, her voice clipped. "All right then," I said with a snap of my fingers. "To foster a better working relationship, why don't you start by getting me a cup of coffee? Black. No sugar." Maya's lips twitched. After that, I continued, "Run downstairs and give me a pack of cigarettes. American Spirits. Blue pack." A fire was beginning to smolder behind her gold-rimmed glasses. "And one last thing," I added slowly, "take these shoes and get them shined." I propped my feet up on the polished surface of my new desk, pointing to my slightly scuffed, no-name sneakers. The air went still. Maya stared at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She was the top assistant to the CEO, a graduate of an Ivy League school. When had she ever been subjected to this kind of humiliation? Shining shoes? For this man, the laughingstock of the entire company? "Ethan," she finally broke, snatching her glasses off her face, her beautiful eyes blazing with fury. "Don't you dare go too far. Too far." I swung my feet off the desk and stood, closing the distance between us until I was standing right in front of her. "Maya, I think you're confused about the chain of command here." My voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that was impossible to ignore. "As of right now, I am your boss, and my word is an order. You have two choices. You can follow the order." I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper beside her ear, "or you can clean out your desk." "You think I'm afraid to quit?" She shot back, her body trembling with rage. "Oh, I know you're not," I chuckled. "But if you leave, who's going to? Keep an eye on me for Sophia." Maya's entire body went rigid. The color drained from Maya's face. She stared at me, her eyes wide with shock, as if I were some kind of mind-reading alien. How did you know?" "I know a lot more than you think." I walked back to my desk and sat down. "For instance, I know Sophia assigned you to me to figure out the secret to my negotiation with Vance, and to make sure I wasn't skimming company funds. Am I wrong?" Maya's lips were pressed into a thin, white line. She couldn't say a word. I had laid out Sophia's entire strategy, word for word. But how? It was like he could see right through them. "Don't look at me like that, Maya. I'm not a monster," I said, taking a sip of water. "I just understand people better than you do. Go back and tell Sophia that if she wants to spy on me, that's fine. But she should at least have the decency to make sure her spies treat me with a little respect." I paused, looking at Maya, who was still completely floored. My tone softened. "Forget the coffee and cigarettes. I don't smoke, and I can shine my own damn shoes. Now, go get me all the files related to the Vance project. I want to read through every single one of them by the end of the day." My voice left no room for argument. Maya stared at me for a few long seconds before she finally managed to respond. "Yes, sir." For the first time, her voice held a note of compliance. She turned and practically fled my office. I watched her go, a small smile playing on my lips. Winning over Maya was just the first step. I didn't just want an assistant. I wanted to turn Sophia's most trusted weapon into my own. Soon, Maya returned, her arms loaded with a mountain of files, which she placed on my desk with a certain stiffness. "Mr. Cole, these are all the documents." "Thanks." I nodded and immediately started reading. Maya didn't leave. She stood off to the side, as if waiting for my next impossible demand. But I didn't even look at her again, my entire being absorbed by the papers in front of me. The minutes ticked by, turning into an hour, then two. The only sound in the office was the rustle of me turning pages. Maya's expression shifted from guarded suspicion to curiosity, and finally, to outright astonishment. She watched as I devoured the documents at an incredible speed. I was practically skimming, yet my focus was absolute, my eyes missing nothing. Every so often, I'd stop to make a note, and every single time, my pen would land on a critical project vulnerability or a key point of leverage, things that even she, who had been on this project for months, had overlooked. This man, was he really the loser everyone said he was? For the first time, a seed of doubt was planted in Maya's mind. Before she knew it, the afternoon had bled into evening. When I closed the final file, the city lights were beginning to glitter outside my window. I stretched, only then noticing that Maya was still standing there. "Why are you still here?" I asked, surprised. A faint blush colored her cheeks. "You were busy, sir. I didn't want to disturb you." "Well, you can go home now," I said with a wave. "Mr. Cole," she hesitated, then asked, Did you really read all of it? Every page. "So, do you have a plan?" "A plan?" I chuckled. "Not yet." "No," she asked, confused. "Nope." I stood up and grabbed my jacket. "You gotta eat a meal one bite at a time. You gotta walk a road one step at a time. Rush things, and you're liable to trip and fall on your face." With that, I walked out of the office, leaving Maya standing alone, utterly bewildered. One bite at a time. One step at a time. She murmured to herself, a strange light flickering in her eyes. This man was nothing like the rumors. Nothing at all. Sophia was already home when I got there, sitting on the living room sofa with a glass of red wine, clearly waiting for me. She set the glass down the moment I walked in. "Did you give Maya a hard time today?" she asked, her voice cold. I wouldn't call it a hard time. I kicked off my shoes and sat down across from her. More like a clarification of the corporate hierarchy. "Ethan, I'm warning you. Maya works for me. Don't get any ideas," Sophia said, her eyes flashing a warning. "Ideas?" I laughed. "What kind of ideas are we talking about, Ms. Hayes? The kind where I have her fetch my coffee, or the kind where I have her warm my bed?" "You." She slammed her hand on the table, sloshing wine onto the polished wood. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." My smile vanished, my expression hardening. "Sophia, let me make this crystal clear. At the office, Maya is my assistant, which means she reports to me. If that bothers you, you could transfer her out tomorrow. But if you do, don't expect me to lift another finger on the Vance project." I stood up and started to head upstairs. "Stop," she called out. Her chest rose and fell with the force of her breathing, a clear war raging within her. In the end, logic won out over anger. "Fine, I won't interfere with Maya," she said, taking a deep breath to calm herself. "But this project needs to go smoothly. I don't want any more surprises." "That depends entirely on your level of commitment," I said, turning back to face her. "What does that mean?" "It means the project team needs a budget and the authority to use it, which you're going to give me." I held up a single finger. "To start, I need $5 million in operating funds. And I want sole signatory authority over that money. No need for finance to approve my expenses." $5 million? With sole authority? Sophia's eyes widened. "Ethan, do you think this company is your personal piggy bank?" "You don't have to give it to me," I said with a shrug. "But, Mr. Vance has recently developed a keen interest in antique paintings. I just so happen to know a few of the top collectors in the city. It would be a shame to miss an opportunity to network with them. If the project stalls because of that, don't say I didn't warn you." There was again that infuriating confidence, that tone that said he already knew how the game would end. Sophia felt like she was punching a ghost. She realized with a sickening lurch that ever since that divorce agreement, she had completely lost control. Ethan was playing chess, and she was just a pawn on his board. The feeling was maddening, but she was powerless to stop it. "Fine, you'll have it," she bit out, the words tasting like acid. $5 million and sole signatory authority. I want to see just what kind of mess you make with it. "Thank you for your generosity, Ms. Hayes." I smiled and turned to go upstairs. As I walked away, I heard the sound of a wine glass shattering against the floor. The sharp crack echoed in the cavernous living room. I didn't even flinch. I knew this was just the beginning. The real show was about to start. The next day, $5 million hit my account. The news sent another shockwave through Hayes Industries. Did you hear? The freeloader asked for $5 million, and the CEO actually gave it to him. $5 million, and he doesn't even have to get his expenses approved. He's playing on God mode. He's just going to embezzle it all. I guarantee the finance department is watching him like a hawk. They were destined for disappointment. The first thing I did after getting the money was take Maya straight to the most expensive luxury mall in Westlake City. Mr. Cole, why are we here? Maya asked, looking around at the sea of designer storefronts in confusion. She had assumed I'd be rushing to meet with those collectors I'd mentioned, not taking her shopping. To buy you some new clothes, obviously, I stated, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. For me? Why? With company money. Maya stammered. Of course. I pulled her into a high-end boutique. You're my assistant now. You represent me. I can't have you showing up to meetings looking like you bought your clothes at a department store. It's bad for my image. Maya looked down at her own expensive, professionally tailored suit and was, for once, at a loss for words. This was considered shabby? Welcome, a sales associate chirped, gliding over. Her eyes scanned my simple t-shirt and jeans, and her welcoming smile immediately curdled into a sneer. Sir, the items in this store are quite expensive. Are you sure you're in the right place? Bring out your 5 most expensive dresses. In her size. I gestured to Maya. The associate gave Maya a once-over. While she was clearly elegant, the associate remained unconvinced we could afford so much as a scarf. Sir, a single dress here costs tens of thousands of dollars. Are you deaf? I pulled a thick stack of cash from my bag and slapped it down on the counter. I said, bring them out. The woman's eyes practically popped out of her head. The sneer on her face melted away, replaced by a fawning, greasy smile. Of course, sir. Right away, sir. Moments later, an array of stunning dresses appeared. Go on. Try them on, I told Maya. Mr. Cole, I really don't think this is appropriate, she hesitated. It's a work expense. Now, go. I gently pushed her toward the fitting room. When she emerged a few minutes later wearing a pale blue gown, the entire store went silent. The dress perfectly accentuated her tall, slender frame and cool demeanor, making her look like a goddess who had just stepped out of a painting. So beautiful, the sales associate whispered in awe. Even I was momentarily stunned. Sophia had good taste. Maya was a diamond in the rough. We'll take this one, I said, regaining my composure. And the others you brought out. Bag them all up. All of them? The associate stammered. All of them. I handed her my card. Put on this. Half an hour later, we left the mall, Maya trailing behind me, clutching several large shopping bags, her cheeks still flushed. It was like she was in a dream. No one had ever spent money on her like that, least of all the man she had once held in the lowest possible regard. And Mr. Cole, thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me, I said, glancing at her. Just remember, from now on, you don't just represent me. You represent Hayes Industries. Don't ever let anyone look down on you. Her heart skipped a beat. She nodded firmly. Just then my phone rang. It was Leo. Well, if it isn't a freeloader. Heard you got your hands on $5 million and took our lovely Maya on a shopping spree. His sneering voice crackled through the phone. You've got good sources, I said flatly. Don't get cocky. You think that money makes you king? This is a corporation, not your personal playground. Every cent you spend is being tracked. Is that so? I smiled. Want to guess where I'm going next? I don't care where you go. Just don't let me catch you breaking the rules. Just a friendly tip, I said in a low, conspiratorial voice. My next stop is Elysium. I hear it's the most expensive club in Westlake City. Care to join me, Mr. Vice President? I hung up before he could respond. On the other end of the line, Leo's face had turned a sickly shade of green. Elysium. That was the most exclusive, decadent private club in the entire city. A place where blowing through $1 million in one night was considered normal. That loser was going to burn through company money at a place like that? Oh, you are so dead, Ethan Cole, Leo roared. He immediately called the head of the finance department and, with a posse in tow, raced toward Elysium. He was going to catch me red-handed and destroy me for good. Elysium was the pinnacle of luxury, a private club so exclusive its members were the titans of Westlake City's high society. When I walked up to the entrance with Maya, a security guard immediately stepped in our way. "I'm sorry, sir. This is a members-only establishment." His eyes swept over us dismissively. I said nothing, simply pulling a sleek black card from my wallet. The guard's eyes widened. He bowed deeply. "My apologies, sir. Welcome to Elysium." Maya followed me inside, her mind reeling. She felt like she didn't know anything anymore. Just how many secrets was this man hiding? An Elysium black card? There were fewer than 10 of those in the entire city. I led her to a lavish private suite and ordered a spread of the most expensive food and wine on the menu. "Mr. Cole, are we really going to eat all this?" Maya whispered. "It seems so wasteful." "Don't worry," I said with a cryptic smile. "Someone else is picking up the tab." As if on cue, the suite door was kicked open. Leo stormed in, flanked by the company's CFO, a severe-looking woman with sharp eyes, and a handful of other employees. "Ethan, I knew it." Leo pointed at me, his face triumphant. "You have some nerve, embezzling company funds to party at a place like this." The CFO stepped forward, her voice dripping with prosecutorial zeal. "Ethan Cole, your actions are in gross violation of corporate financial policy. We have the authority to freeze your funds and report you to the authorities." The employees behind them had their phones out, recording everything. Leo had brought an audience for my execution. I looked at the furious mob, completely unfazed. I calmly poured myself a glass of wine and looked at Leo. "Well, since you're here, why don't you join us for a drink?" "Drink with you? You're finished, Ethan. How about you dead to rights?" "Oh, really?" I set my glass down and clapped my hands twice. A second door in the suite opened. An older man in a traditional silk jacket, looking sharp and energetic, entered, surrounded by an entourage. The moment Leo and the CFO saw him, their faces froze. Mr. Croft," Leo stammered, his voice trembling. The man was Julian Croft, the undisputed titan of Westlake City's business world, a man so respected they called him the Godfather, and, as it happened, the owner of Elysium. Mr. Croft didn't even glance at them. He walked directly to me, a booming laugh erupting from his chest. "Ethan, my boy, you finally made it. I've been waiting all day for you." He clapped me on the shoulder with the warmth of a grandfather greeting his favorite grandson. I stood and smiled back. "Julian, you're too kind. I just got here myself. Come, sit." Mr. Croft guided me back to my seat, only then casting a dismissive glance at Leo and his crew, who were practically trembling in their expensive shoes. His face darkened. "And who are these people? What's with all the shouting?" Leo flinched as if he'd been struck. "Mr. Croft, sir, we're from Hayes Industries. We were just—" He couldn't form a complete sentence. "Hayes Industries?" Mr. Croft frowned. "Sophia Hayes's company?" "Why, yes, sir." "Oomph." Mr. Croft snorted. "The younger generation of the Hayes family has no manners at all. Do you have any idea who you just interrupted? Can you afford the consequences?" A palpable pressure filled the room. Leo and the CFO went pale, sweat pouring down their faces. They never would have dreamed that the guest Ethan was here to meet was Julian Croft himself. More than that, they couldn't fathom why a legend like Julian Croft would be so friendly with a worthless son-in-law. "Julian, calm down. It's just a misunderstanding," I said, playing the peacemaker. Then my colleagues. They were just a little concerned about my expenses today. "Concerned?" Mr. Croft's eyes flashed. "Your presence here is an honor to me, Ethan. All of your expenses, tonight and forever at this club, are on the house. Does anyone have a problem with that?" "You hear that?" I looked at the CFO. "The owner says it's on the house. So much for embezzlement." The CFO's face burned with humiliation. She wished the floor would swallow her whole. I then turned my attention back to Leo, a slow grin spreading across my face. "Leo, I believe your exact words were that I was finished?" Leo's body was shaking uncontrollably. "And no, sir, I was just joking with you." And with a pathetic thud, he dropped to his knees. "Sir, I was wrong. I'm an idiot. Please, just forgive me this once. I'll do anything." Leo was practically sobbing, clutching at my pant leg, all his earlier arrogance gone, replaced by pure, pathetic terror. The peanut gallery he'd brought with him stood frozen, too scared to even breathe. Julian Croft looked at the scene with disgust. Ethan, this is a vice president at your company? It's an embarrassment. He's just a kid, Julian. Don't pay him any mind, I said, before giving my leg a slight shake to dislodge Leo. All right, that's enough of a show. It's getting pathetic. Take your people and get out. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Scrambling to his feet, Leo practically crawled out of the room, his posse scurrying after him like frightened rats. And just like that, the drama was over. Maya had watched the entire exchange in a state of stunned silence. Her brain felt like it was short-circuiting. Ethan knew Arthur Vance, and he was on a first-name basis with Julian Croft. Who in the world was this man? My apologies for that little scene, Ethan, Mr. Croft said. Don't worry about it, Julian. In fact, I invited you here tonight because I was hoping you could do me a small favor. Anything. Just name it. I need an introduction to a few of the top antique painting collectors in the city, I said, getting straight to the point. Mr. Croft laughed. Is that all? My boy, half the collectors in this city call me their mentor. Tell me who you want to meet, and I'll set it up personally. Thank you, Julian. I owe you one. Oh, me? Please. That tip you gave me on that dusty painting at the country auction turned out to be a lost Monet. It made me a cool 9 figures. I'm the one who still owes you. He boomed, his eyes sparkling at the memory. Listening from the side, Maya felt her heart pound in her chest. A lost Monet? 9 figures? She felt like she was uncovering a series of earth-shattering secrets. So that was the connection. He could spot priceless art. Just how many other incredible talents was he hiding? For the rest of the dinner, Julian and I talked about everything from art and antiques to global market trends. Every insight I offered, every prediction I made, had the old tycoon slapping the table in agreement, calling me a genius. Maya just sat there, her expression evolving from shock to numbness, until finally, all that was left in her eyes was pure, unadulterated awe. She realized that Ethan's knowledge wasn't just broad, it was an ocean. He could speak with authority on any subject, his analysis always sharp, his conclusions brilliant. A man like this, a worthless freeloader, it was the biggest lie she'd ever heard. He wasn't a genius. He was a phenomenon. When we finished, Mr. Croft personally walked us to the door. Ethan, you call me anytime you need anything. There's nothing in this city I can't handle. I'll do that, Julian. On the way back to the office, Maya was uncharacteristically quiet, her head bowed. What's on your mind? I asked. Mr. Cole. She looked up at me, her eyes a swirling mix of emotions. Who are you really? Me? I smiled. I'm just Ethan. No, you're not, she said, shaking her head with absolute certainty. The Ethan Cole from before. He wasn't like this. Oh, and what was he like? She blushed. I don't know. I just know that you're brilliant. More brilliant than anyone I have ever met. It was the most direct and sincere compliment a woman could give a man. I saw the starlight shining in her eyes and knew, in that moment, that this pawn was no longer Sophia's. She was mine. All right, don't overthink it, I said, patting her shoulder. Just stick with me. You won't regret it. It was late when we got back to the office. The light in Sophia's office was still on. I told Maya to go home, then pushed open the door and went inside. Sophia shot to her feet the moment she saw me. Leo, and his people found you? She asked, a hint of anxiety in her voice. She had clearly heard what happened. They did. Are you? Okay. Why wouldn't I be? I walked right up to her desk, a playful smirk on my face. I think the person you should be worried about is your dear cousin. Sophia's expression soured. Leo had come back and groveled at her feet, recounting the entire humiliating ordeal. When she heard that Ethan was friends with Julian Croft, her shock had been just as profound as Leo's. Ethan, you and Mr. Croft, how do you know each other? She couldn't stop herself from asking. You want to know? I raised an eyebrow. She nodded. Then ask me properly, I said, my voice dropping low. Beg me, and maybe I'll tell you. Sophia went rigid. Her nails dug so deep in her palms, they nearly drew blood. Beg him? She, Sophia Hayes, had never begged anyone for anything in her entire life. Especially not this man, the one she had scorned and dismissed for years. Ethan, don't you dare push me, she said, her voice trembling. Push you? I stepped closer, trapping her between the edge of her desk and my body. Was it pushing you when you threw those divorce papers in my face? Was it pushing you when you told me to get out of your house with nothing? Was it pushing you when you sent your assistant to spy on me? With every question, I took another step forward. Sophia was forced back until her hips hit the cold edge of the desk, and she had nowhere else to go. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a fear and helplessness she had never felt in the presence of any man. Let me tell you something, Sophia. I leaned down, my lips so close to her ear I could feel the warmth of her skin. The faint scent of her perfume filled my senses. Goosebumps rose on her neck. The tables have turned. I'm the one in charge now. You want my secrets? Fine. You want me to solve your company's problems? I can do that too. But you need to show me the proper attitude. Beg me. My voice was a devil's whisper, echoing in the silent office. Sophia's body began to shake. A war was raging inside her. Her pride screamed at her not to give in, to never, ever surrender to this man. But a deeper, more powerful curiosity was clawing at her, a desperate need to understand what had happened to him, how he had transformed from a nobody into this powerful, enigmatic force of nature. The mystery was driving her insane. Time seemed to stop. The only sound was the frantic beating of our hearts. Finally, after an eternity, she closed her eyes, her long lashes trembling against her cheeks. When she opened them again, the fight was gone, replaced by a sort of weary resignation. She looked at me, her lips parting slightly. I beg you. The words were almost inaudible, but they hit me like a bolt of lightning. I smiled. The Ice Queen was finally starting to melt, and I was going to be the sun that turned her into a river. Good. I straightened up, putting a respectable distance between us again. The sudden loss of support made her sway, and I reached out, my hand finding her waist to steady her. Her body was soft, pliant in my grasp. Her face flushed a deep crimson as she tried to pull away as if she'd been burned. Stay still, I murmured, my hand firm. As a reward for your good behavior, I'll tell you the first secret. What is it? She asked, her voice breathy. The reason Julian Croft and I are friends is because I helped him pick out a raw, uncut stone at an auction. It turned out to contain a flawless, 9-figure emerald. Boom. Sophia's mind went completely blank. An uncut stone? A 9-figure emerald? It sounded impossible, like something out of a fantasy novel. You're not lying to me? She stammered. Do I need to? I let her go and sat down on the sofa. If you don't believe me, feel free to look it up. Sophia just stood there, speechless, trying to process it all. If what he was saying was true, then everything made sense. Why Vance treated him with such respect. Why Croft treated him like a son. He possessed a skill, a kind of modern-day magic that could make anyone rich beyond their wildest dreams. Then you. She looked at me, a new, desperate hope in her eyes, the Vance deal. It was because you... That's right. I snapped my fingers. I knew ahead of time that Vance was desperately searching for that specific Song Dynasty tea set. All I did was give him what he wanted. Knew ahead of time. Sophia seized on the crucial words. How could you possibly know that? I said, a slow, wicked smile spreading across my face. That would be the second secret. But if you want to know that one, just begging isn't going to be enough. What? What else do you want? She asked, her voice laced with nerves. I crooked my finger, beckoning her closer. Come here. Sophia hesitated for a moment. Then, as if pulled by an invisible string, she walked over to me. I took her hand and pulled her down, settling her onto my lap. Her body went stiff, her face so red it looked like it was on fire. Ethan, what are you? Chill. I wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. I leaned in, my lips brushing against her ear. You want to know the second secret? Then give me a kiss.